Welcome back to the Sampleist from wherever you're tuning in from around the globe. My name's Greg Revell. Thanks for joining me. Before we dive into today's video, be sure to subscribe to the Sampleist to stay abreast of the latest cutting-edge virtual instruments. And if you dig this content, then smash that like button to let us know. Today, we're going down into the avant-garde minimalist world of composers such as John Cage and German composer Hauschka to take a look at a very interesting instrument from Insanity Samples, Mutations piano. Mutations piano is a prepared piano, a piano that has been manipulated by attaching everyday objects to its strings to create a very unique sound palette. And as is always the case, I must declare up front that Insanity Samples has kindly made a copy of the instrument available for today's review. That said, they have not had any input whatsoever into this video because at the Sampleist, we pride ourselves on our independence and transparency. Piano Mutations features 6 different preparation types, 3 round robins on 2 velocity layers across the range of each preparation, a sound warping series of post effects, sustain pedal samples and volume controls. It has release trigger samples and the volume controls, and has the ability to have specific preparation choice on all 88 notes. Installed, it's approximately 1 GB and requires the full version of Contact 5.8.1 or above. It does not work with the free Contact player. Let's dive into the unique world of Insanity Samples Piano Mutations. So here we are, I've loaded an instance of Insanity Samples Mutations Piano. A little bit of background is necessary. If you're watching this video thinking it's another piano sample review, you're going to be either disappointed or excited because it's not like any other piano sample review. This is a prepared piano. For those who aren't familiar, a prepared piano is where the composer has taken a conventional piano and lifted the lid on it and has inserted in between the strings a series of everyday objects to alter the sound. For example, you can wedge pieces of rubber between the strings, screws, bolts, even ping pong balls to bounce around. So it really does manipulate and turn the piano from a melodic instrument to a percussive one. So let me show you a very simple example. I'm going to select here the patch that allows the piano to sound like any conventional piano. If I now have a prepared piano, and this is one I prepared a little earlier, that same piece of music now sounds like this. It's utterly different. So in that sense, with Mutations Piano, you have to abandon all your preconceived ideas about what a piano is. It's now become a percussive instrument. So this is a very unique way of thinking about piano, and it was popularized, if that's the right term, if you like, with composers like John Cage back in the early 20th century, who took sound design and manipulation of a piano to extremes. It's also been popularized by German composer Hauschka in recent years too, who's also another proponent of prepared piano. But on the whole, you can tell that it is indeed a very unique instrument. Okay, so as is customary to do with reviews, I'm going to take you through some presets, but with this one caveat, is that I honestly don't think that having a set of presets for a prepared piano is ultimately where the instrument shines, and that's because of the very nature of the piano itself. But that said, let's kick off and have a listen. As you just heard, I've given you an example of what can be just considered a pure normal piano. Lovely. You can select a preset that changes all the strings into action screws. So an action screw is a small screw that's got a washer and a nut on it, and it's wedged in between some strings. Now with that, you're going to get this sound. As you can hear, obviously a very percussive sound. You can also hear the hammers of the hitting the strings and being released. What else have we got? Let's have a look at all closed pegs to give you an idea of that sound. As you can tell, it's going to push you into all sorts of directions. And even for someone like me, I'm not an intuitively natural piano player. So this really does actually stretch you into different areas to help you think differently about what you can do with a prepared piano. Quickly, another couple of ideas. This one's got all keys have been prepared with long bolts. And to give you a flavour, what about even mutes? Now, mutes are where they place little rubber wedges in between the strings. You can even alter the placement within the strings, up and down the length of the string to alter its sound too. And I'll show you some of that in more detail. But to give you an idea, this is what mutes sound like. Moving right along, you can add ping pong balls. Yes, literally, you can place a handful of ping pong balls into a section of the piano and you'll get this sound. Very interesting indeed. And even you can have plectrum, where it is literally taking a guitar plectrum and plucking each string. But what about some of the other ones that are prepared, such as a distorted rhythmic bass? That's getting into the avant-garde. which is a really good way of describing this. This is really good for avant-garde type of music, if that's your thing. How about this one is all the prepared black keys and pure white keys. So here's my C major. And here's a bit of A flat major with the black keys. C major. Very weird indeed. Into minor. And you can reverse where you can prepare the white keys, but then have the pure black keys. There's a randomized starting point, so you can just select that and it will just generate a random selection, which can be very weird. If you haven't noticed already, the thing that I got out of playing with this instrument is that, as I think I said earlier, you have to turn this into a percussive instrument. And so all of a sudden you start thinking differently. And in my mind, I started thinking of repeating rhythmic flourishes. Very rhythmic, like a clock. And maybe to round out this one, you can have a rhythmic bass, but a pure top end. Really, really interesting. The more I play with it, the more I can sort of find myself getting swallowed up into a world of harmonic progression and rhythmic progression, and that's kind of really interesting. Because I also think that any instrument that can actually take you outside of your comfort zone, and this does for me, I won't lie, but it can actually help you create new ways of thinking about your composition process as well. So there you go, there's an overview of the presets. But let's dive in now and I'll show you some of the actual interface itself. So let's spend a little bit of time in understanding the interface, because as I said earlier, I think with this instrument, because it's so unique and it's very highly customizable, and so it's paying attention to some of that nuance and detail is something that I think you'll get the most benefit from. So this is not an instrument where you can just select a preset and off you go and your composition's almost done. It takes some thinking about it. And if you think about it, the clue's in the name. It's a prepared piano, so you have to be somewhat prepared for it. That said, let's have a look at what we have here. As I said earlier, each and every single key on the keyboard is mapped to a particular mutation or a preparation, if you will. So this particular note here, across the bottom, you'll see buttons or icons representing every single white key, and across the top here are the equivalent set of icons representing the black keys. So every single note, black and white, can be prepared and customized to your every need. So for example, here's our C, which is currently selected to long bolts, but we can select a pure sound or a rubber mute in various positions. You can select ping pong balls, closed pegs, action screws, which are small screws with washers on them, to give a rattling sound, or indeed a plectrum to pluck the string. Have some information which is really quite helpful too. So hitting the information button will describe down here in this panel what you can do. So we can close that. Having selected the preparation for that particular string, we can now close it. And we can move on to the next one, which is currently set to a pure, but I might want to change that to a long bolt, etc. And you can do that up and down for each of them. So that's quite a lengthy, laborious process, but it's actually really, really helpful. The next one, you have in the middle a big randomizer function. So as the name suggests, it will just generate at random a series of preparations to all the strings. Hit randomize. You get the idea. Moving along, drawing your attention to the left-hand panel, you have a couple of arpeggiators, which is really, really helpful for creating these rhythmic repeating patterns. So the first one, selected here, is known as ARP, has a conventional arpeggiator, for those who are familiar with it. So you can select the mode to be on or hold plus. So if it's turned on, it will play the arpeggiator according to the rhythm you see there. Again, you can randomize and try again for the same pattern. The hold mode, as the name suggests, means when you hit the key, it will hold that note in that position. So my hands are now off the keyboard, and I can move to the next one. Take my hands off the keyboard, move to the next chord. And switching off. So of course, you can change the rhythm to your heart's desire. You can vary the length, moving how many you want to add to create a random rhythm. Again, the beauty of this is I've got no idea what this is going to sound like. I should also point out, or I haven't mentioned, but obviously how hard you hit the keys increases the velocity of the note. So it could be the octave selects how many octaves up and down the keyboard that your arpeggiator pattern refers to. You can vary the rate and the tempo. So very slow to very fast. The 3 and 32, the triplets, the 64ths. Something moderately so. You can change the duration the swing and how many times you strike the keys, and that means either it's doubles or singles. So for example, with the swing and the duration, there's a bit of a swing feel into it. And the strike, if I put it up to 2, it plays each note for that many instances. In this case 2. Lovely, so there's your toolkit there for the ARP. They've also got here a different type of ARP. This one's a poly ARP, if you like. So again, you can turn it on, you can change the rate and the duration of the swing, but this one here, you can actually change all the different pitches of the arpeggiated and the velocities for each of those notes, and you can create multiple parts for them. So having set something at random, for example, I get this. So that's just me holding down some variation of a C minor with the G bass and letting the arpeggiator do the work. Wicked, all right. We also have an effects panel, which obviously houses a lot of the effects. You can choose from distortion, the stereo, there's a delay, and of course some reverb that you can manipulate the sounds, again, to customize the sound you're after. Over here on the right-hand side is the ability to control the mix of the sounds. So you control the overall volume, but you can also control the individual sounds of the pure or the rubber mutes, long bolts, ping pong balls, closed pegs, and action keys individually to give that different color and variation between the different various types of preparations. Also worth noting too, if you've got yourself a sustain pedal, use it and use it liberally. You can get some lovely flowing resonances. And with the pedal off, more percussive. And finally, you can increase the sound of the mechanical noises and the pedal itself. So if you just put the pedal on, you might be able to very gently hear that one. I'll put it really high. There's the pedal, the sustain pedal. I've got it on my foot down there. And finally, you can either have a forward playing sample, or you can select the samples to play in reverse to give that sort of classic sort of really nice. So there you have it. That's the overview of the instrument itself in all its glory. Very expansive, very creative, highly customizable, and given some time and working around and playing and finding your little niche within this niche can be really lots of fun. Lots of opportunities to manipulate the sounds by adding conventional effects, using arpeggiators to give that rhythmic pattern that I think is really germane to this whole style of music. That repeating ostinato patterns that are rhythmic and relentless in some cases can really give you some fantastic ways to actually create new exciting ideas. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a short composition I used using Mutations, and on the other side of that I'll give you my final thoughts and we'll wrap up the video. So let me give you a quick walkthrough now about how I arrived at some of the musical decisions I did in featuring Insanity Sample's Mutations piano for this composition. Now my challenge was twofold. One, I'm not an intuitively natural piano player. I know enough to be dangerous, but not a whole lot more. And secondly, I'm certainly not a master at prepared pianos, such as John Cage and Hauschka and those type of composers who are experts in really drawing out the full extent of what a prepared piano can do. And a prepared piano is a very niche sounding instrument. So that said, I resorted to the default feel that I had, which was using the piano in a percussive role rather than a traditional melodic role. So I had this sort of sound. Let me select that. Found a rhythm that seemed to resonate, and I came up with this. Now let me just give you a feel too, by the way. This is a straight 4/4 beat, which will be important shortly, and I'll tell you why. Followed shortly, I thought that's going to need some sort of harmonic bed, maybe to add some depth to it. So I added some brass longs. I'll just add them here so you can see where they pop up down here on the piano roll in red down here. Somewhat of a noir feel perhaps. And then I thought I'd add just a little bit of extra short stabs in the brass just to add to that percussive feel. And they're the ones here you can see in red here. Awesome. Okay. Now we're moving on 4/4, and then I decided to do a full 180. Let's turn things really interesting. How about we switch up to a different time signature? And I decided to go straight into a 6/8 groove. Here's how it feels. I'll leave the click on for you so you can hear it, but you'll hear it. It's really obvious. Again, more percussive piano with the Mutations piano. 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6. And as you can hear there, I also added some percussive strings, that being the staccato strings. Nothing more than simple octaves between, in this case, holding it down a C in the bass. Plenty of percussive elements going on there. Felt a little cheeky. How about if we try putting on something like a sort of a jazz-like random piano. Again, I'll show you what that is. That is using Piano Mutations arpeggiator in the poly. Have it switched on there, selected some notes, random pitches and a velocity, and then essentially I just added my fingers to the keyboard, and you got this lovely looking mess in the MIDI scroll, if you see down here, which to be honest isn't terribly musical. It's me just adding some notes that across a few random triads, if you like. And I added the reverse on it. You can hear the sucking sound of the reverse. Let me solo it, and you get this. Oh, I beg your pardon. Let me just quickly set this up again. I think it switched itself off. Awesome. And then continuing on. So let's take a little quick middle eight here, a soft interlude, And now on this occasion here, I created a Mutations piano instance that was simply holding down triads, but in reverse, using the reverse playback feature. And that sounds like, if I solo it by itself, that first part here, you can hear it enter into the piece in a slow swell. Added some more percussive piano, and we had this small section here. Again, let me solo it up. And before we come home with a wet sail, we need some percussive and a drop. And that's nothing more than a riser that I reverse and panned it left and right a couple of times. And then we come into the final section. We're coming home with a wet sail. We have more percussive piano. We have another instance doing reverse triads. And we also have the stack strings building. And then just to really top it off, I added in a layer of brass short stabs to bring it home. And of course, to finish it off, a nice way to roll it out with the arpeggiator of the Mutations piano and some percussive elements. So, if I may, let me play you just the last 30 seconds to bring home that last bit. And there you have my review. I hope you found that really helpful and inspiring. Hopefully it gives you some creative ideas to put into your compositions. Okay, so how about some final thoughts now, and I will wrap up this video to complete for Mutations piano. This is a very unique and a very niche instrument. If you're looking for a general piano, then you're clearly going to be disappointed. This is not for you. But if you're into sound design and exploring the possibilities of turning a piano into a percussive nature, then you're going to really, really enjoy this. I also want to acknowledge right from the outset that the amount of work that Insanity Samples must have gone to has been immense. If you think about it, every single string in the piano has been prepared with a multitude of different preparations to give you a very highly customizable product. This is not just a tool that you set a button and play your composition. It will allow you to get under the hood and get your fingers dirty and create a highly customized experience, which is so in tune with the spirit of a prepared piano. The original composers like Cage, who had to prepare a piano, must have spent many, many hours just in the preparation stage. So in that respect, having the ability to do likewise in a virtual instrument in a highly customized way is very much in the true spirit of the instrument. But for those who don't want to spend hours trying to customize their own experience, there are plenty of tools to get you up and running really, really quick, not least of which is the randomizer function from which you can then further customize. The arpeggiator function also likewise takes advantage of the percussive nature of the instrument, creating possibilities for repetitive, rhythmic ideas that can be enhanced and taken forward. Add in some effects and the ability to control the volume of each of the individual types of preparations, even the mechanical noises, and what you've got together is a very comprehensive instrument. So if you're after an instrument to stretch you into your discomfort zone and explore the almost infinite range of possibilities, then you're going to be rushing to get your copy. A very unique instrument that bends convention. Highly recommended. All that's left for me to say now is a big thank you once again for spending some of your precious time with me today. I sincerely hope you found it interesting. Before you go, be sure to like the video and comment, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel to join a growing community of virtual instrument composers and enthusiasts to stay at the cutting edge of new releases. This has been Greg for the Sampleist, urging you, as always, find your sounds to find your soul.